Well, hi everybody. It's Bob Ost, and it's Friday. So of course, it's the Friday TRU Community Gathering. Many of you know this by now because this is a 203rd consecutive week that we've been doing it. We started it back in April 17th, 2020, when a little thing called COVID, very little but very damaging, showed up in our doorstep. And basically we went into something called quarantine. And all of us were like, what am I what am I gonna do? How do I do quarantine? How do I stay home? How do I lock my door and not go out? Um, all of that actually seemed very like brutal questions at the time. I remember thinking, they don't really mean quarantine, do they? I mean, do they mean I really can't go out? I couldn't grasp it. None of us could. But we figured out a way to keep the community going. We somebody told me to open up a Zoom account, and I said, open up a what? But I opened up a Zoom account, and we opened up a Zoom room on Fridays, and ever since then, we've been bringing people together to talk about, well, whatever we talk about. Back then, it was really about, oh my God, we're going through a quarantine. Now we're back to normal conversations in terms of theater-related conversations. Normal. What is normal? So we no longer have the same kind of quarantine rules, and we don't have the same kind of danger that we had from COVID. But just so you all know, we still have COVID. People are still getting sick. I know as many people who get COVID now as I knew 4 years ago, probably more actually, because people are going out and being more daring. But just as a way to remind us all to be conscious and to be considerate of the people around us. So one of the things that happened because of this thing called Zoom, um, I had people in my circle who had said for years, go virtual, go virtual. You'll become global. You'll become global. What do you mean I'll become global? I'm a little New York arts organization. I'm in Manhattan. I mean, I don't know anybody who's very many people outside of Manhattan who know who we are. But then we went onto Zoom, and within like a month, we suddenly had an international audience. We had people from all over the country, and we had people even from all over the world. Oddly enough, a particularly large contingent of supporters from Australia. I don't know why, but yes, they come in, and we love to have them here. So what this also did was it made it impossible for me to pretend to be New York centric. It's like, okay, we're global. So that not only opened up my mind about, well, it opened up my mind about everything. I mean, I just realized that there was a country outside of New York, and that there were people who were making theater all over the world. And darn it, I decided I really wanted to meet as many people from as many places as I possibly could. And in the past 4 years, we've met small theaters and regional theaters from all over the country, dozens of them probably at this point. And when I learn about a new company that I've never heard of, my ears perk up. It's like, who are they? What do they do? And I was introduced. I'm not sure how it happened. Oh, I know, because I did a town hall last week, and Rachel Robinson popped up in a room. And I said, who are you, Rachel Robinson? Who are you, Rachel Robinson? And she said, well, I'm with a company. And she started talking to me about this company called Magnolia Theatre Company. And I said, you know what? I want to meet you. I want to interview you guys. And so she went off and she asked the powers that be at Magnolia, that would be Gina Handy Minyard. And Gina said, sure, why not? And so here we are. I think it's 2 weeks later, isn't it? How long ago was it we met? I'm gonna bring you in a second. Once my, I was gonna say, once my mouse stops spinning. So, oh, something's going on with my mouse. Bear with me, everybody. But okay, here we are now, and I have Gina Handy Minyard and Rachel Robinson from Magnolia, and I want you to meet them, and I want to talk a little bit about what you do. I mean, we were talking about issues of gender parity. And sure enough, it turns out that that's something that is of particular interest to Gina and Rachel, I would say. You can turn your mics on right now because I'm going to bring you in and I'm going to meet you. Um, so Gina, um, I think I'm going to briefly say hello to you and then go to Rachel and I'm going to come back to you because you are the power behind Magnolia. It was your idea.
Yes, I founded the company in 2012.
And why did you do that?
It was really as a result of a culminating result of my theatrical career to that point. I am uh, somebody that does a lot of things in theater. It sounds like all of you can identify with kind of being multi hyphenates. The majority of my theatrical career has been as a performer. I think in reflection, I was having a reflective time in 2012 and was thinking about just the amount of people that I had worked for and worked with, and just noticing that they were all white men. And um,
I know a few of those too.
and I just wondered why. I mean, just like, why was that? Like, how come I had not really worked with many female directors, female producers, female artistic directors, in my theatrical journey thus far? And so, I went to the internet and started doing some research and realizing that it was a real problem. That not just I was noticing that, but there were some people in the industry that were noticing that as well. So I was like, well, what can I do about that? And I said, I think what I'll do is start a company. So we are a female driven company. Our mission is to put strong female characters on stage. Um, and then we kind of have some other directives that live under that mission, but that is our primary mission, to put strong female characters on stage.
And if I'm correct, you weren't in Dayton at that point. Where did you start the company?
Started the company in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, which is
Oh,
about nine.
the Steel City,
It
Bethlehem
is.
Steel.
It is indeed.
I'm a Philly
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, yeah, about 90 minutes outside of New York City. I was living there at the time and started the company and then moved to Dayton, Ohio in 2013.
So you didn't spend a lot of time in Bethlehem,
I
but
was
at least you got started.
I was there about 3.5 years. So it was towards the end of my time there.
Oh, okay. And Rachel, let me bring you into this conversation. Tell us about yourself and your background and how you found your way to Magnolia.
Sure. So I'm Rachel. I am from Dayton, a little bit different from Gina. So I'm from here. I grew up here. I am primarily a scenic and lighting designer, but do a lot of different things. I've worked as a technical director. I've done props. I've done puppets. I've done a little bit of everything. I studied design at Carnegie Mellon University, and I have since gotten a master's in workforce development education from Ohio State University. So I have kind of like a dual focus in promoting and working in theatrical design, but also in education. And my primary job at the moment is working for the University of Dayton. I am a professor here and I teach theatrical design. But I also design for various entities around Dayton, kind of in Ohio primarily. Um, and Gina and I met when she was directing somewhere that I was designing. I think it was at Town Hall Theater, which was a youth theater here in Dayton. So that's how we met. And I think we had a lot of shared values and visions, which, I think is something we'll talk about in terms of like our mission with Magnolia later. But I think that's what drew us together. And we have worked together a lot since in a lot of different avenues. And she had asked me to design a show for Magnolia back in 2017 called Gideon's Knot. So that was the first time I really worked for Magnolia primarily. And then, then the pandemic hit and then we weren't really doing much. And then afterwards, just in this past year, she invited me to be a member of the board. And again, I think that comes back to having, you know, a lot of shared priorities and experiences, even though we come from different sides of theater. Me being a designer, which I'm probably maybe the only one in the room. I know I have a different skill set here.
Oh, no. We have designers in our community.
Excellent.
A lot of them. Yeah. I'm very interested in you as a tech person, because I need to do more conversations about tech. I do need to.
Well, it was really interesting because, like you said, you know, we kind of came to this talk because I attended that discussion on, you know, steps taken towards gender parity, and I loved it. And it was really interesting, you know, seeing from, you know, I think most people there were, you know, producers, directors, actors, and it was really interesting to see that side of a discussion that, you know, I live in a very different context, but it's like it's all of us, everyone in theater is experiencing some of the same things, so that having this ground to like discuss how we all experience it is great. But yeah, that's how I've kind of come to be part of Magnolia.
Okay, I'm going to remind people in the room to mute themselves, because we're getting a little bit of leakage, sound leakage in here. So let me go back to you, Gina. Let's get back to Bethlehem. What was the theater scene like in Bethlehem?
Extremely small. I think that
Really?
the only theater there that's really I would doing any professional work is Touchstone Theater, and they have been there for a really, really long time, and are doing a lot of social justice-based work, devising, and you know, have had a founder that came, you know, has Lecoq roots, that went to the Lecoq School, so it's kind of a um, movement-based theater company. But several community theaters around that area. You know, there's it's kind of considered to be a three-town area. It's Allentown, Bethlehem, and Easton, the ABE area. And there's several community theaters there, very, very active theater programs at the university level that were doing a lot of really, really good things. Some professional theater coming out of DeSales in the summer. But, you know, when I was there, I was mostly pursuing opportunities in New York City. So I was taking the bus in, you know, once a month or so, and auditioning and doing some things. But Touchstone was actually the venue that we ended up using for our first production. They transformed an old firehouse that was on the south side of Bethlehem, which is actually where the steel stacks were. They're not there. Well, they're you can see them there, but they're no longer in use. But they converted this old firehouse into a theater space. It was a really, really cool, kind of unique space. It had about 50 people. And we decided to do our first show there. They charged me $1,000 to use the space for a week. So yeah, we got a lot of press. You know, I really wanted to pay my actors, so that kind of was my first foray into self-producing. So I was paying for everything, and kind of figuring that out was an interesting journey for me. But our first show was 5 women wearing the same dress by Alan Ball. You know, I get questions sometimes about why, well, you did something that was by a male. And I'm like, yes, you know, I don't necessarily shy away from producing things or involving men. They just have to have our ideals, right? They have to believe that we deserve to be treated equally. And I do feel like there are some men that really write beautiful female characters. So that's not necessarily a prerequisite for me, but by and large, I do try to produce female and non-binary characters and playwrights. So yeah, that was our first show. I think we did four shows total. We ran it for a week, and it was really successful. It sold out every night, and that was kind of confirmation that the need was great, and the interest was there.
So you actually spent enough time hanging around New York theater to know that you wanted to get out of it.
I love New York. I still love New York. I probably go to New York twice a year. I find New York inspiring. I have still a lot of friends that are there, that are doing things and are readily involved. And uh, I guess I have had a love-hate relationship with it over the years. But one of the things that I
That's
love,
very normal. That's normal.
right. One of the things I loved about living in Bethlehem, was that, I could leave it all behind. So at the end of the day, I could get on the bus and go back to my house with a yard and a dog. And so yeah, those things were, that wasn't lost on me.
Well, good. Um, so when you started your company in Bethlehem, did you plan on it being an ongoing thing, or was it just, hey, I want to do theater. I'm in Bethlehem. Let me find a way of doing it. Or did you think that you wanted to create a company that would be ongoing? Because you've now been around for 12 years.
Um, Yeah, I think initially when I thought about it, I was just like, yeah, I want this to be something. I want this to be a part of my theatrical life. Um, if this specific kind of outlet was something that was fueling my passion and the things that I wanted to do. So yeah, I wanted it to be something. But it took me a long time to kind of figure out how to push the company forward, and in pushing it forward, what that would take. And I think a lot of times when I started feeling the momentum pushing forward, or I felt like I knew what I needed to do to push it forward, I felt really scared. Um, and most of that was financially driven. I didn't know how I would pay for it, and I didn't know how I would be able to honor people's work if I didn't have money. And so a lot of times when it propelled forward, I ended up being like, well, I need a better job so that I can support this work. So it would take me down other paths, and then I would get, I don't know, like unfocused. Um, so the biggest leap that we ended up taking was in the pandemic. The pandemic provided me the space to get our paperwork in order and our things in order so that we could become a nonprofit. And that was something that was well overdue. We had a
Yeah, that was
fiscal
one of
sponsor.
the things I was going to ask you. So when you started out, you were a loose. You didn't have a real structure.
Yeah, I was just, being like, let's do the show. I'll self-produce it. I'll make a budget. I'll hire people and we'll do it.
I just want you to know that we love self-producing artists, and we identify self-producing art. I am one. We identify them as self-producing artists, and
Oh,
we
I
like to
love
use
that.
that term. We call it spa. Everybody's in the spa because producing yourself, as you well know, is extremely relaxing.
It is. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, there's no stress at all. I just do
Yeah,
whatever I want and write the check.
of
Yeah, it's
course,
great.
of course, of course.
Um, yeah, I did that for a number of years. And then when we moved to Dayton, the Performing Arts Center here, which was called Victoria Theater Association, they're bringing in, the Broadway tours and doing all that kind of stuff. They had a program that was called Impact. And it was for fledgling theater organizations to use their spaces at a reduced cost. And, so when I moved here and found out about that, I was like, oh, well, that's me. So I signed up, and it was great because they took on a fiscal sponsorship for me. So, I had looked at some other tools to figure out how to do that, looked at Fractured Atlas and some of those other wonderful organizations that do those kinds of things yes, Fractured Atlas.
No,
Yes.
no, no. We do too. We do it too.
Oh, great. That's
I'm a
good to
fiscal
know.
sponsor. Yeah.
Great. That's awesome to know. I like it was really hard to find those kinds of things, and I felt like that was the next step for us. So when we got that fiscal sponsorship, that enabled us to again kind of take out a financial step forward, where we were able to do some crowdfunding. We were able to apply for some specific kind of grants. Not all grants are real excited about fiscal sponsorships, but it was a good purposeful step forward for us, and then also allowed us to produce in a real theater, you know, that had like seats and lights and backstage and those kinds of things. And so
Instead of
um,
smokestacks.
right. So yeah, so like joining that was a great thing. And over the years, that program has kind of been molded and shifted. Um, when I first joined it, there was like marketing support. I could go and meet with their marketing people and talk to them about like, hey, we'll push out a press release for you. I was able to talk with the executive director a couple times a year just about vision and about focus, and that kind of stuff has gone away. I'm still a part of it, but now what they want is they give you reduced costs on rehearsal space and performance space, but it's a 3-year program. So each year the support gets a little reduced. So we have just completed our first year with them in this new program. So, and it's called Community Spotlight.
Okay, so before we all rush to Dayton, I'm gonna I want to come back to Rachel for a second. I want to talk about your journey a little bit. Um, when did you connect? I know you first connected as a designer when you were working together. When did you decide you wanted to be a part of this company? Was it a gradual decision? Did it just evolve that way? Or did you just
Um,
say to Gina, I love what you're doing, let me help?
Yeah. I think it was gradual. I think working with Gina in a lot of different contexts helped me be around her and her journey and her vision for what Magnolia could be as she kind of navigated some of that evolution. I think that first like meeting started sometime like 2015-ish, somewhere in there. And that was, me designing, her directing, us really enjoying that collaboration. Then Gina was working at a school here in Dayton called Stiver School for the Arts, which I then applied and started working at in 2018. So we were working together a lot more closely and directly on a regular basis, which kind of fueled the partnership a lot more. And I think it was Gina asking me to design Gideon's Knot in 2017 was, I think, the starting point of like more direct involvement in Magnolia. And I think that came about because I was at a point where I wanted to be doing different work, and Gina gave me that outlet with Magnolia. Um, and even though there wasn't another opportunity immediately to, design again, or be involved directly again, after the pandemic, there has now. So I think in working with Gina further since then, I think it's just kind of naturally evolved that we have, a very good working relationship. We have a shared vision, and I think, Gina could speak to that more, but like I think she really wanted, my perspective and my expertise as part of her board, because she knew that I could be, a good mentor, and not a good mentor, wrong word, different
Yeah,
thing today. I'm in college right now, but a different,
supporter.
collaboration is the word that my brain was going for. Um, yeah, I think it was a natural progression, I think is the long and the short of my answer for sure.
So back to you, Gina, for a second. So you started in 2012. You moved to Dayton in 2013. At what point did you start actually asking for help, or were you doing
Um,
it all by yourself?
I
I,
still feel
I
like
bring I bring this up as an issue that is very common in people that start theater companies. They have a hard time getting an infrastructure that they wind up doing everything themselves.
yeah, I can't say that that's not still an issue. I think that sometimes every everybody that I know that is involved with Magnolia, either if they're on the board or if they're supporting me in some other way, is really fantastic. And so they're busy. And they're also doing 17 other projects. Rachel is no exception to that. She's a great designer. And so there are a lot of people that want to work with her. I think for me, bringing a board to the organization and kind of for it becoming a nonprofit, it does really force you in a way, I guess, to take a look at what the responsibility of the organization look like, because that's the board's job, right? The board is to keep the company in check in all different facets of the organization. And so there does need to be oversight. There have been some really specific things that I have turned over. And then there's some things that, like I'm not good at. I would consider myself a very mediocre grant writer. So there's somebody on my board that's a fantastic grant writer. I'm a good proofreader, but that's not my strength. So I'm able to turn some of those aspects over, or at least work in partnership, and it doesn't make the load feel so heavy. But am I still doing the majority of the work? Yes.
Well, let's talk about this other transition. You said that it was because of shutdown that you were given the time to actually think about becoming a not-for-profit. So
Mhm.
how much did you know about what you needed to do when you decided, oh, I know, I've got time on my hands, let's become a not-for-profit?
I took advantage of some of the free things, right? There were some free classes at the library about like, what do you need to do if you want to start a 501c3? How do you fill out the 1040 EZ form? Or how do you do these things? Or what do you need from the state? I had attended 2 of those classes again because I knew nothing. Also had done some research online. So I had some knowledge, but not a lot of knowledge. So had a friend say to me like, hey, the Montgomery County Arts and Cultural District, which is the county where Dayton is, has a special projects grant that is also operational and also can be towards building capacity building.
Okay,
And so,
I want to just stop for a second because I want to tell everybody how hard it is to find grants that are operational.
yes.
And they're more, they are happening now, but pre-COVID, the general operations you could never find money for we never could. Now I have it. Since COVID, NISCA suddenly understands.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a game changer for sure. So I applied for that grant to basically hire a nonprofit specialist who would really walk us through and would help us to do it right. And I didn't want to do it wrong. I wanted to make sure all the paperwork was there. I wanted to make sure that our bylaws were in place, that we had paid all the fees, that we had contacted the Secretary of State and paid the business license and all of these things. There's little things and big things that are involved with it. And I think it can seem really daunting. We used that grant to hire that specialist and lead us through the process. And it was wonderful because I felt safe in the process. I knew that we would be doing it right, and that was important to me.
Well, a couple specific things I guess I'll ask you about is you do you have officers in your structure? And
Mhm.
the other, okay, so you knew you had to do that. And then the other thing that's always challenging is bringing in a board that is useful, other than friends that want to just, be there. Have you been able to build a board for yourself that is substantially supportive of the organization?
Yes, I feel like
And what are you going to say with Rachel's right here? You have to say yes.
yes, yes, Rachel included. And Rachel's actually a fairly new member of our board. Um, I Everybody from we used a board matrix, and I think that that's really helpful to kind of tick some boxes about like what do I bring and how can I help. Rachel is our only um She's not our only technician on our board, but some of the specificities around her expertise, she is the only one. And yeah, I need people on my board that think differently than me, but I also need people on my board that can get on board with our mission and have shared values. And yeah, so I have felt good about it. I want it to expand. We are looking to add some more board members. That is probably where our challenge is right now, is just taking that next step. I really would like to double the size of our board here in the next year. And so finding that right people, because I'm looking for a lot of different aspects of diversity. And that's one of our goals inside some of our DEI initiatives, is that we are looking for different kinds of people. Not just age, but gender and race are also playing a factor. So yeah, I want people who are smarter than me. I want people who are not afraid to lift people up. I want people who will speak boldly about us in spaces. So yeah, we are in that process right now.
So leading up to shutdown, you said that basically shutdown offered you an opportunity to breathe and think and make some changes. What was it like pre-shutdown, and what was your company doing once I guess post shutdown you were forming the not-for-profit? Were you also producing, or were you waiting to have all your paperwork in order before you started producing?
I wanted us to have our nonprofit status solidified. So when we submitted, it took about 2.5 months to get that.
Oh, that's fast.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
so you know, that's
I think
fast.
we got right on the other side of it because it was, in 2023. So I heard that in like 2022, it took 6-8 months when people were applying. So yeah, I was teaching at the time. One of my many multi hyphenates is being a theater educator, and I taught in the public school system from 2016 to 2020. It was tremendously stressful. Every year I was like, this can't get any worse. And teaching in 2020 was awful. It was just awful. I knew that I wanted to get away from teaching and wanted to focus on the company. And so we produced haphazardly between 2014 and 2020. We did anywhere from 1 show to 3 shows a year. We started a staged reading series in 2017 because I was feeling the weight of producing fully produced shows. Felt like it was too much with my teaching responsibilities. And so starting the stage reading series with a kind of a specific model helped us to kind of elevate some new and underproduced plays and female non-binary playwrights. We kind of started from the Kilroy's list and built out from there. That was something that I felt like I could get underneath and that I could still be teaching. It was somebody in like 2018, 2019, a friend of mine was just like, you're kind of like a boutique theater company. You just like produce every once in a while. And when you do, we all just come. I loved that idea.
I like the last part of that.
But that's not what I want. I want us to produce for real seasons. So our 23-24 season was the first full season that we have done since 2018.
You're union. You as an actress, aren't you?
Yes.
Or are you? So is your company a union?
We have worked with a few equity contracts. We worked on LOAPP for 1, and then we worked on guest artists for 1 show. We did not do that in this season. We're hoping to do it next season.
So this is something of interest to a lot of us here in the room, probably. we find it challenging working with equity. A lot of us in New York.
That's fair.
What's it like in Dayton? What are the? I know that like a showcase code doesn't exist for you. A lot of things that we are bound to here in New York don't exist outside of New York. So what's it like? Tell if I were to go to Dayton and produce, what do I need to know?
Uh, I have mixed feelings about Actors Equity. And as far as them being supportive of artists outside of New York City or maybe I'll even just say Broadway. Being supportive of actors outside of Broadway is difficult. And it's more difficult probably 5-6 years ago than it is now. We primarily deal with the Chicago office. The Chicago office handles our contracts, which I always found to be great. They're great in that office. And, I would call them up and be like, I want to use an equity actor in this show. This was what I'm up against. This is my budget. Can you help me? And I found them to be extremely accommodating and pulling for, equity artists in this area to work and have work. But we have one other equity company here in Dayton. It's called the Human Race Theatre Company. They've been around for about 30 years.
Oh my God, I completely forgot. Yes. I know them, and I actually I tried to get them to. I was trying to produce a show there about 10 years ago.
Well, the Human Race Theatre Company used to be like such a hub for new work and had a really bustling new work festival in the summer, which as over the years has just kind of gone away. I'm not really sure why. A lot of equity companies in Cincinnati, there's 5-6 equity companies in Cincinnati, that's an hour away. 5 or 6 equity companies in Columbus, also an hour away. But you're going to find most of the equity actors here in Dayton are in academia because that is the best place for them to be. So I'm not scared to write an equity contract. I believe in a lot of what equity is about, but it still doesn't make it less difficult.
So what did you produce during shutdown? Were you just in reorganization, or did you actually do anything virtually? I mean,
we did not produce anything.
So you didn't do anything virtually?
Nope.
So you're not coming back to live. You just never left.
Yeah. We look different now. Being a nonprofit, I think that we look different. Us joining this community spotlight program, we look different. And then one of our new, well, I guess it's not new necessarily, but I'm passionate about students. I'm passionate about the student experience changing. I just think a lot of things that were taught to even me and some of the people that came through other collegiate programs, I think we're seeing just big shifts and how people are treated in this business. And I want to be a part of that. And so our company is committed to partnering with some local universities to see if we can bring a different experience to those students as they're studying theater or musical theater or theater studies or technical theater or whatever that may be. And that has been something that we have always kind of done over the years, but this year we honestly made it official. And Rachel was a big part of that with the University of Dayton and decided to co-produce their fall play together. Financially, this was a great move for us because not starting out the year with not a lot of money, not a lot of support, we were able to go on a producing split with the University of Dayton. We were able to choose a piece that suited our mission, but also fit the needs of their students. And then Rachel was there to kind of provide that bridge.
Okay, so Rachel, you take it now.
Yes.
How did you provide the bridge?
Well, I think you decided to form that partnership before I started working for UD.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of like just a convenient thing. Because I just started working for the university this year. But yeah, it's been nice being both, a member of the faculty here in our theater department, and then also being a board member with Magnolia, and that's starting around the time of our fall production, being able to support both organizations in that way, and being able to support both organizations in a way that I think worked very well for both of us. And both organizations got a lot out of the experience. Like Gina said, it was really nice for here at the university to take on a lot of the work and financial heavyweight of some of the producing of it, because as Gina said, that's often the hard part, is having all of the designers, having the space, having, everything that goes into that side of it, to be able to produce, a bigger show with Magnolia. So being able to take the weight of that off of, Magnolia's shoulders allowed us to do a fully, produced show that then was great for our students here at UD as well. Our program director here at UD, Michelle Hayford, is someone who's worked with Magnolia before, directed for Magnolia. So that's been a longstanding partnership as well. And she's really interested in doing work that aligns with our vision here in Magnolia, and social justice driven work in particular. So we did The Moors by Jen Silverman. And that provided, an opportunity for our student actors to work with professional actors. So it's a 6, person show. 3 of the actors were professionals that were hired. The other 3 were student actors, and then that collaboration was able to happen in rehearsals. So it was really great for our students, particularly our acting students, to be able to work with professionals in that capacity, in a space where we could control the environment, we could create a safe space for them. As Gina said, creating, experiences that improve upon production practices in the way that we want to improve, the way we work, and trends that we have seen in the business. And it was great for, not just our actors, but our student designers as well, to be able to work essentially for a professional company and be in the room and be a part of that collaboration. That's just great for their craft. That's great for future, work that they do if they want to come back and work with us. It was just all around a great experience for all of us. So me just being physically present, I guess, is, I was very happy to be able to do that and be able to create work that was good for both entities.
Let me ask you this, Rachel.
Yeah.
I'm going to stay with you for a second.
Of course.
You have a theater life outside of Magnolia. So tell us a little bit about what that's like for you, and what does Magnolia give you that you realize you needed?
So as a designer, I simply, try to design for whoever I can outside of school and outside of Magnolia. At the time I met Gina, and at the time I had started designing for Magnolia, I think I was largely working for like youth theaters. So largely working for schools and, youth or education oriented places where like the shows that we were doing were all like, school shows, or like Seussical or SpongeBob, like a level of show that like is fun and it's youth oriented. And I enjoy being able to be part of the educational process in that way. But I was missing something for myself as a designer. I was missing a rigor. I was missing being more seriously and impactfully present and invested in the work that I was doing, on a level that I felt was, where I was as a designer, I wasn't being fulfilled artistically. So I felt that Magnolia and Gina gave me that outlet to work on a show that brought me back into the world of theater that I originally wanted to do, and it just didn't happen after college. Went into this world of youth theater and I hadn't gotten out yet. So Magnolia was like this bridge towards me being able to do different work that I was more passionate about, particularly because we want to focus on female characters, different stories that give me more of an outlet for my creativity and my passion as a designer.
How big is your board? How many are you on the
There's
board?
4 of us
And
at the moment. Hopefully more soon.
well,
Oh wait, there's 3 of us actually at this point. Yeah, there's 3 of us at this point. There's 3 of
gee,
us.
while we're talking, we lost someone.
I know. I just discounted.
Okay, so what has your experience been like as a board member? I mean, I've had a board for God, how many years have we been doing this? We've been running TRU. I've been running TRU for 31 years.
Hmm.
And I'm sure I've had a board for most of that time. Um, what has it been like for you as a board member?
So I think I started officially on the board in October. So it's been very recent. It hasn't even been a full year for me yet. This is my first experience being a part of a board in that way. So it's been very educational for me in that sense. I think I'm seeing an entirely different side to theater, and I've never had to step into the role of any kind of producing agent in any way. So being able to help facilitate some of the business side of Magnolia has been very interesting and a learning experience for me. And I think it's, I've never really known what to expect being part of a board, but I imagine this is better than I would go if I were to be a board other places. I like to think that this is better. I think my impression is that people get asked to be part of boards because we have something to bring to the table. And I think sometimes that's skills, sometimes that's labor, and sometimes a lot of times that's money. But I don't think that's why Gina asked me. I think Gina asked me because she knows that we have a similar vision for the type of work that we want to do, and that we both particularly want to create theatrical experiences for ourselves, for students, for our colleagues, for our collaborators that improve upon the experiences that we have lived in the industry, which was the whole reason that Gina founded Magnolia in the first place. So I have really enjoyed being part of a board that has that kind of safe space mentality, and that we are all a team, collectively trying to make a vision happen. Um, Sometimes I feel like I don't know what I'm bringing to the table, but I'm sure it's something. I'm not a grant writer, I'm not a producer, but I'm able to be effectively helpful in other ways, I hope, and
So Gina,
bring a different perspective as a non-producer, a non-actor, a designer, and as an educator. I think primarily as an educator, and that partnership that we have and drive that we have to be part of student experiences, I think I bring a lot to that as well.
I know that when I put together my board, I do have it in the back of my mind that I want to have people represent all the different aspects of theater that are in our membership. It doesn't always happen. I mean, the people that are available to you and that are willing to help you as board members they don't always break down into I need somebody from column A, somebody from column B, and basically I have a lot of producers on my board. But I'm always looking for people that have perspectives that from the not-for-profit, people that understand the needs of small theater companies. Because I have some Broadway producers on my board, and that's a different perspective.
Mhm.
And it's always a balancing act for me. I have to make sure that the board is understanding the needs of all of the membership, not just the most visible Broadway people.
Yeah.
So Gina, what did you learn about boards when you were studying to become a not-for-profit that informed your choices and how you selected board members? And once we do all this infrastructure stuff, I want to get back to your mission.
I think that one of the biggest things that was pointed out to me was that that they shouldn't necessarily all be my friends. that I should be, looking for diversity inside my board, and that using that board matrix tool was just really helpful, because it was just kind of dividing up where I knew that the responsibilities would lie. The state of Ohio requires that you have 3 people on your board to start your nonprofit. That's a requirement when you submit your paperwork.
The same thing in New York. It's basically 3 people on your board, and it's optional whether or not they're officers. But you have to have 3 people as part of your infrastructure.
Yes. So we started with 4. We had someone leave our board last November.
Tonight, apparently.
We had her leave last November, but it's kind of like, it feels weird because she's still kind of involved. But one of the biggest things one of the reasons I wanted her on the board was because she was a lawyer. And she had passed the bar, but she's also an opera singer. So she brought all these 2 mindsets to the table that were really valuable for us.
So I want to turn to the mission now, because I realize that you guys have to leave in 8 minutes. So your mission, you call yourself a feminist theater company.
Mhm.
How political do you see yourself? And do you think that is there a difference? Is there a line between politics and art, or do you stay on one side of it as just the art of it?
I think I essentially believe that art can be really political. And, I think that people choose to digest it in different ways. There are some things that we do that I think people could interpret as some kind of political statement. It has not necessarily been a goal of mine necessarily to be politically driven, but I have found over the years the ideas around feminism have definitely been challenged, and we see too, like in the Black community, that we find that a lot of Black feminists don't agree with what white feminism is. And so I think feminism itself has kind of been demonized in some communities. We tried to redefine, specifically when we're talking about feminism, that we're talking about intersectionality as well, and that we're thinking about feminism as a crossroad. And so I think that I can't say that it has necessarily been a goal of mine starting this theater company or producing anything that I'm like, I am intending to put myself in a political foray because of this. But there are so many theatrical themes that are political in nature. And so I think that happens more often than not, especially when there are lots of conversations happening right now about the idea of gender and the spectrum of gender. So I will say that our season next year is political.
Super political.
And that is
Well, I think we're in a moment in our country where it needs to be. I mean, women are being attacked openly and just rampantly by our political system right now. It's just horrifying. I mean, it's horrifying to you. It's horrifying to all of us who are bothering to comprehend what's going on. I just want to say, Nico Juber says, I think women doing anything ever is deemed political. So I just thought that was worth a shout out.
Yeah, sometimes just speaking.
Yeah.
But we just did 5 lesbians eating a quiche, and we were featured on a Good Morning Dayton program, and when they put the title of our play on for the actors that they were interviewing, they put 5 women eating a quiche and not 5 lesbians, because they were not allowed to say lesbians. And I was like, what? So yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think that art is inevitably political. It's always going to be inevitably political when you put ideas and thoughts and individuals and behavior on a stage. It's going to read a certain way to different people, and some people are going to like it, and some people are going to be offended by it. I just am amazed at how many people are offended by things that I think are just like part of life. I don't understand. I don't understand Ron DeSantis. I mean, I'll just, to name a name. I can name other names too, but I won't. But just the banning of books, the oppression on freedoms that is being unleashed in our country is just unforgivable. It's unforgivable. I think we're gonna.
Yeah, I feel like I'm never gonna run for office, but I do know how to do theater, so that's what I'm gonna do. And I think we have found too, something that has been really helpful for us is that when we do have talkbacks are pretty much a requirement now of any kind of grant funded art. And when we do our talkbacks, we use Liz Lerman's critical response process. If you're not familiar with it, it's wonderful. And it really does keep arts centered talkbacks at the forefront, right? We don't get into the weeds about where you stand on this or issues, but we talk about the art, and I love that process.
Well, what I like to say, and I've said this before, is basically politics is where people go to fight, art is where people go to listen.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that that it's important that art be part of our culture, very actively part of our culture, because it's the only way that people are ever going to possibly hear each other and listen to each other.
Yeah.
We only have a couple minutes, and Ross, have I missed any questions from the room?
No, you've not. I don't think. No.
Well, I saw a couple, so I'm gonna disagree.
Really?
Marie
Okay,
Condon.
let me check.
Maureen Condon wants to know, what size budget would you need for a 20-song musical that you would produce at the college?
Oh, okay. Sorry, those are in the thread. My bad.
At UD, I think our production budgets, I think it varies on the show, and we co-produce our musicals with our music department here at UD. But I think around $50,000.
You have no idea how cheap that sounds to us.
I know. Well, it is Dayton.
It's like,
yeah,
we would be saying $580,000. So Nico Juber also wants to know, have you guys tackled musicals, and would you? And I think everybody in the room wants to know, is there any opportunity for them as writers and artists to contact you and become involved with your company?
We have only tackled one musical, and we did a musical called Broadway Beveled, kind of like looks like Broadway backwards. So it was a gender flipped review that we did back in 2018 as a fundraiser, all male songs and scenes being performed by women, and it was a blast. We had First Lady Suite on our season in 2018 and ended up not being able to produce it because we did not have the money. It had about a $50,000 price tag.
It's also a complex show.
Yes, but I still love it and still would love to do it. So I think the answer is, do I want to do musicals? Yes, I do. They're just expensive. And we're going to finish this year at about a $40,000 operating budget. And that is assuming too, that with our UD co-production, we produced on a 70-30 split. So we only spent 30% of our budget at UD. They took on 70% of it. And then the rest of it went towards our stage reading series and then Five Lesbians Evening Quiche. So next year we are hoping to be at between $50,000 and $60,000 for our annual budget. Very small, again, very small budget. Musicals just cost money, and I don't ask anybody to do art for free. And so I want to pay people a living wage. I want to respect their time. So yeah, I think in time, we will produce musicals, but paying everyone from the musicians to the ensemble to any of the other actors is just a budget that is out of scope for us right now. If you wanted to get involved with us, absolutely, you can email me. We have hired a few out-of-town artists here over the years. It's just kind of dependent on what the needs are of the company. The Femme Artisan series is a place for new and underproduced work, and we do accept submissions for that. Next year, our intention with the Femme Artisan series is for us to have a residency. So we're intending to bring a playwright in to do a workshop and then culminate in a staged reading. And we have not selected that playwright yet. But that series looks a little different every year. But yes, I welcome more voices in our pool. If you are about us and and what we are trying to do, I welcome you in.
And I'm very happy to welcome you guys here tonight, and thank you for being with us. Like I said earlier, I'm very, very much committed to expanding the New York-centric view of theater and reaching out into Dayton, Ohio, and Australia, everywhere. So thank you for being my guests today. If you excuse me for just a second, I'm going to say a few words of thank you to my audiences. I want to thank everybody who's in the room today. I thank you for supporting us week after week after week. If you're new to TRU and you just happen to find us on YouTube or through our podcast, we're here. We're here, and we'd love to have you be part of us. If you want to be in the room and you want to ask questions and you want to have conversations with the people that are my guests, please just email me, trunltd@aol.com, trunltd@aol.com. I will send you an invitation every week. Every week, I promise you. So, and we'd love to have you. Next week, I have a friend of mine who was won like 8 local Emmy Awards for a TV documentary series that she does for the Mayor's Office of Art of Media and Entertainment, Susan Hanman. So we're going to talk about documentary films. And then 2 weeks, I've got a guest coming in from Munich, Germany. He's a German orchestra conductor in Munich. And I know that I'm a theater guy and this is sort of a theater organization, but I love crossover. I love crossing over it from theater into other arts. And we're going to talk to him about how conducting an orchestra is very much like directing a play. And we're going to look at music from a theatrical point of view. And then in the future, I've got Joanna Gleason's going to be a guest on here. So keep us in your mind and keep looking for what we're doing. And if you want to support us, oh yeah, the pitch. If you want to support us, don't let me stop you. We let everybody come for free. We never require that you pay. However, we do have donations that are possible when you register to come to one of our meetings, and we also invite you to either become a member or to donate to us. If you want to give us some money and some support, try going to TRUDonate, trudonate.com, trudonate.com, and we will gladly welcome whatever support you can give us. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you in the future, in the weeks to come. Got lots of interesting people coming on, lots of them. That's it. Thanks.